theme of the day beautifully. All I know is you love me. If there is a covenant that is made by God in this world, it is precisely that. No matter what, I love you, period. End of story. And it will show up for you in a variety of ways. If you have any ounce of sense in your brain and any sight beyond your eyes, you will know that what makes your life function is the love which is present in it day by day. Just thinking about friendship, for example. Friends can grow into loving each other, but it goes by means of a time of testing. All of you who have friends know what I mean by that. You test each other out. You may go out to lunch and shoot the breeze a little bit. You do some casual conversation. Later on, if it seems like it's working, you'll spend a little more time together. And then if it's really working, you'll start to share a little more intimate things to see if the person is trustworthy. If the person is found to be trustworthy, then the relationship evolves even more. And so you end up with an intimate companion that you can walk through life with. And they are to be cherished and valued in every way. And same with our families. We do not have contracts in most of our families. I know we've tried the contracts that you put on the refrigerator with our kids, and they work really, really good. Yeah, there is the consummate of punishment, whatever you decide that's going to be, and that never works very well because by that time you're tired and cranky and you're either going to overdo it or you're going to say, the heck with it, I ain't bothering with this, just get out of my face. Either way, trying to run a family by means of a contract basis simply does not work either. It is by means of covenant. And a covenant always has to do with a hard-nosed, upfront commitment that says, I love you. Period. Even if you do something really wrong, something dumb, I love you. Period. I trust you. Even if the person has been found to be untrustworthy in your family, you're still going to come back with a covenantal form of that and say, we're going to renew and restore our relationship. I'm going to trust you again. We're going to try it again. This is how then God will relate to you in the same fashion by means of covenant, in which he will be saying to you, I love you, I trust you, you are worth it, and worth my time and energy. And that's what he did with Abraham in the first reading today. He made a covenant with Abraham several months prior to the scene we have here. And the covenant was very simply, it said, Abraham, if you and Sarah leave your hometown of Ur and come over to the country of Canaan, you will receive blessings, you will have a lot of descendants, those descendants will become a great nation. You won't see that, but it will happen, and that descendant group will become a blessing to other nations. And Abraham, you won't see that. You'll see some immediate blessings, but you won't see the whole long historical picture. Because if he did, he would be here today because we are the heirs of Abraham and Sarah, and the fact that he followed through on that covenant with his faith and trustworthiness. Now, what happened with Abraham, he wasn't sure what to make of this idea of covenant. Mostly because he was, in his own way, he was a screw-up, just like all of us. I don't know about you, but if you tell me you're like a perfect human being, I know you're lying. It's just what it is. I can lie to you and say, oh, I'm good too. Yeah, all right. I don't think so. Abraham was such that in that day, his wife and he had not had a child yet. So, of course, then he decided that maybe he didn't love his wife because it was her fault, of course, naturally, that they didn't have a child. So off they go to this new land of Canaan. They run into a king, and Sarah was, by all Bible accounts, a really good-looking woman. So what does he say? The king says, oh, Abraham, I like that lady you're with. Who is she? Oh, that's my sister, he says. Yeah, I know, what a swine, right? Yeah, precisely. And then, before they end up sleeping together, the king finds out the truth of the matter and goes to Abraham and says, "What are you doing?" And Abraham just said, "I was afraid you were going to kill me." And so the king got mad at him and just sent them both out of the territory. But this is the kind of stuff with Abraham that was going on. And it was then, right after that event, a few weeks later, that God comes to Abraham in this particular first reading that we have today and says to him that I'm going to establish a covenant with you. And Abraham, you know, he's just not sure even who he's talking to. And I suspect that you've had the same thing even in your faith. What is your religious faith? How do you describe it? What is its value and meaning and purpose to you? Does it have anything at all for you? Well, that was the kind of thing that Abraham was walking with every day of his life too. And what he says at one point when God addresses him, he addresses God as the Lord God. You can't get the sense of it in the English language, but in the original Aramaic, he calls God, the Father of Jesus, Baal Moloch. That's the Canaanite god. He's not even sure who's talking to him. He's not even sure what he believes. So, God then says to him that you are going to be somebody that I value. And Abraham doesn't know whether to believe it or not, isn't even sure who's talking to him really. So, what God then has Abraham do is to just, instead of trying to force the issue, and this is the other thing that God will do with you, he will meet you at your level of insight and interest and need, and begin to engage you in dialogue and conversation in different ways. One of the ways he starts with Abraham is he takes him outside on a clear night, and you should do this for yourself when you're starting to feel uppity. Like you've got it all together and you think you know everything and everybody else is stupid. Go out on a very clear night, when the stars are in their courses and the moon is out, and it'll be a full moon either tonight or tomorrow night. I can tell because we're all getting a little funky. And look up and see it all and realize that you're looking up at it and everything is working quite nicely without you. Thank you. That is exactly what God said to Abraham. He said, listen, you think I'm a Canaanite God, so you're not sure who I am. So let's just start there. Let's just start with remembering a word called humility. That you have a place in the world, but you're not the center of it. You're the center of my love, but not the center of the universe. Very different things. So he did that, and he goes out there, and then he says, Lord, I believe. But he's still not exactly sure what he means by believing, because when God says, okay, we will now make a covenant, what does he do? He goes out and he gets 3 animals, and he cuts them in half. And then lays them side by side. And that isn't Jewish, and it's not Christian, and it ain't anything related to our faith. It is Hittite religion. Hittites are people, a nation that existed in the southern part of Turkey and worked their way down into the Middle East back in the BCs. So Abraham still isn't even sure who he's relating to or what he believes. In other words, he's in some kind of movement toward faith, but isn't sure what kind of faith he's looking at. After that, he goes into what's called a deep and terrifying darkness. Now, many of you know what a deep and terrifying darkness is if you've ever been depressed. That's a deep and terrifying darkness. And that's precisely what happened to Abraham. He went into a deep and a terrifying darkness because he realized that his life was a mess, that he was in movement but wasn't sure why or where he was going or what the conclusion or value of it was. He was mad at his wife, and he was guilty about being mad at his wife and embarrassed that he had betrayed her so badly. So he went into a deep and terrifying depression. And it was at that moment, when he was absolutely helpless to help himself, that the Lord came to him. The word of the Lord, used several times in this text, by the way, and made him a new promise that A, I love you, that the promises I made to you a year before are still true, and that they're going to happen. And it was then, at that time, that the covenant was renewed, and Abraham was strengthened to go on, rather than to kill himself. And it was that fundamental. Now, I don't know whether you think of that as good news, but I do think of that as good news. Anybody who can go into that kind of deep pit of meaninglessness and hopelessness and uncertainty about the virtue of anything at all, and come out the other side, seeing and enjoying the stars in the skies, recommitting in his case to his wife and family, recognizing that there's more to life than his own pain, and that there is joy and presence and value in life. That's good news for anybody in any era and in any time. And you'll note that God had to do some changing of his ways in relating and getting in touch and giving thought to how he was going to let Abraham know that he was well loved and well cared for. It's not always such an easy way to do that. I went on YouTube in the last couple of weeks. I had read a story about Wynton Marsalis, the trumpeter. And one night he was at a place called the Village. Help me out here, those of you who know. No, it wasn't the Village Voice, that's the name of the newspaper. Okay, Village Gate maybe? Village Vanguard it was called, the Village Vanguard. Okay, and he was playing a song titled, I Don't Stand a Ghost of a Chance with You. And in that song, trumpeting it, he played that and went off into a variety of places and directions, improvisations. And at the end of that song, everybody's mesmerized, and he stops and he plays with the voice of the trumpet, making the trumpet sound almost like a human voice. I don't stand a ghost of a chance. Everybody just mesmerized. And then the cell phone rang. The cell phone rang. Wynton Marsalis looked, stunned a little. The rest of the crowd embarrassed. The person whose cell phone had rung got up, walked out quickly, and Wynton stood there for a few moments, picked up his trumpet, and started playing the tones, the ringtones. But he didn't just play the ringtones, he played the ringtones improvisationally and went off into all kinds of places and locations, and everybody's mesmerized again because it's appeal now to life and appeal to the chances and the changes that come to all of us, and it's a testimony to the goodness and graciousness and skill of beauty and music and art. And he ends with, again, the voice. I don't stand a ghost of a chance. And that is precisely what Abraham was living with too. I don't stand a ghost of a chance. And in the ghosting of life, where you sort of want to disappear because you just know there's nothing there for you, there calls out, there is more than a ghost of a chance, because I love you, and I'm going to pursue you, and I'm going to let you know that I not only love you, but that I trust you, that I care for you, and that you will know it because there is beauty which will meet you even in the worst depths of your despair. You will meet beauty, and that beauty will smack you so hard that you will be unable to not be moved by it. And so there won't be a ghost of a chance. There will be a ghost of a chance for you. And that is the meaning of the gospel. God says there's a ghost of a chance for you. And because there's a chance for you, he's made a bet on you. And he will improvisationally meet you. And his improv will be quite creative and quite interesting and quite exciting. And you'll meet his improvisations in your relationships, in your family, in your friendships, in the friends you don't even know you're going to have. And in the locations and circumstances of your life that you don't want to be, underneath that pain will be the improvisation of God, causing you to see the beauty which is present there, and living a transformed way in life. That's the gift of the gospel. That's what he offered to Abraham and Sarah in that terrifying darkness and depression. There he was, transforming his life into a life which extended for centuries down the road, and it's the only reason we're sitting here today, which just kind of blows me away. You might want to think about your own life and the way in which God has called you and will call you to trustworthiness, to love, to recognition of beauty and art, and to a passing on of that love of beauty and art, and the impact that you're going to be making with your life in a future that you won't ever see, but your impact will be marked, and it will be there, just like it was for Abraham and Sarah. Is there a ghost of a chance? Yeah.